For years, the decision was almost automatic. If someone was planning a trip to Southeast Asia, Bangkok was usually the starting point. It was the city that introduced millions of travelers to the region and became the gateway to everything that followed. The formula worked remarkably well. Visitors arrived in Bangkok, experienced the energy, food, markets, temples, and nightlife, then continued to beaches, islands, mountains, and neighboring countries. For decades, few cities could compete with its influence. Even today, Bangkok remains one of the most visited cities in the world. The city still offers incredible food, endless entertainment, world-class shopping, and a travel infrastructure built around welcoming millions of visitors every year. Yet, something interesting has started happening. More travelers are arriving in Southeast Asia and choosing a different path than previous generations of visitors. Instead of automatically booking Bangkok as their primary base, some are heading directly to Kuala Lumpur. Others are spending more time in Penang than they ever expected. At first glance, this seems surprising. Bangkok remains larger, more famous, and more established in the global travel conversation. So why are more travelers looking elsewhere? The answer is not that Bangkok suddenly became a bad destination. In many ways, Bangkok remains one of Asia's most exciting cities. The real story is that travel priorities are changing. What many travelers value today is not always the same thing they valued 10 or 20 years ago. For years, excitement was often the primary goal. Travelers wanted intensity, movement, crowds, nightlife, and the feeling of being dropped into something completely different from home. Bangkok delivered that experience better than almost anyone. The city became famous for its energy because it rarely seemed to slow down. For many first-time visitors, that energy remains part of the appeal. The sounds, traffic, markets, food stalls, elevated trains, and constant movement create an atmosphere that feels uniquely Bangkok. But for some travelers, particularly repeat visitors, the experience can begin to feel different over time. What once felt exciting may eventually feel exhausting. The issue is rarely one thing. Instead, it is often a collection of small factors that gradually influence travel decisions. Crowded transport systems, longer travel times, heavy traffic, increasing prices in popular districts, larger crowds at major attractions. None of these are unique to Bangkok. They are simply realities faced by many successful tourism destinations around the world. As destinations become more popular, they often become busier. As they become busier, some travelers begin searching for alternatives that offer a different balance. This is where Kuala Lumpur enters the conversation. For years, Kuala Lumpur existed in the shadow of Bangkok when it came to international tourism. Travelers often viewed it as a stopover city rather than a destination in its own right. That perception is beginning to change. Many visitors arrive expecting a modern city and leave surprised by how easy daily life feels. The city often provides a level of convenience that catches first-time visitors off guard. Public transportation connects large portions of the city efficiently. Airports are well connected. Major attractions are relatively accessible. For travelers accustomed to navigating larger and more congested cities, Kuala Lumpur can feel refreshingly manageable. The city also presents a different visual experience. Glass towers stand beside colonial architecture, modern shopping districts sit near traditional neighborhoods, and cultures blend together in ways that are immediately visible. Malay, Chinese, Indian, and international influences shape daily life throughout the city. That diversity becomes part of the travel experience itself. Food is often where visitors notice this most clearly. A single day in Kuala Lumpur can include dishes representing multiple cultural traditions without ever leaving the city. Many travelers discover that the variety rivals almost any destination in the region. The city may not market itself as aggressively as some competitors, but its food scene frequently becomes one of the highlights of a trip. Another factor attracting attention is perceived value. Travelers increasingly compare what they receive for their money rather than focusing only on headline prices. Hotels, transportation, dining, and overall comfort often contribute to that calculation. For some visitors, Kuala Lumpur performs surprisingly well in those comparisons. Yet Kuala Lumpur is only part of the story. The bigger surprise for many travelers is Penang. Unlike Kuala Lumpur, Penang does not immediately impress with skyscrapers or massive infrastructure projects. Its appeal reveals itself more gradually. Many first-time visitors arrive expecting a pleasant island destination. They leave wondering why more people are not talking about it. Georgetown, Penang's historic heart, feels very different from the major capitals of Southeast Asia. The atmosphere is slower, more walkable, and often more personal. Colorful streets, historic buildings, local markets, cafes, temples, and street art create an environment that encourages exploration rather than rushing between attractions. For many travelers, that slower pace becomes part of the attraction. The experience often feels less like checking destinations off a list and more like spending time inside a living city with its own personality. Food plays a major role here as well. Penang has developed a reputation that extends far beyond Malaysia. Some travelers arrive specifically because they have heard stories about the island's food culture. Street food, hawker centers, local specialties, and generations-old recipes create an experience that feels deeply connected to place. Unlike many tourism experiences that can be replicated elsewhere, Penang's food scene often feels unique to the island itself. Another factor is scale. Bangkok can feel enormous. Kuala Lumpur feels more manageable. Penang feels smaller still. For some travelers, particularly those staying longer, that smaller scale becomes an advantage. Distances feel shorter. Neighborhoods become familiar more quickly. Daily routines develop naturally. Many visitors describe feeling comfortable faster than they expected. This shift is particularly noticeable among long-stay travelers, remote workers, and retirees. These travelers often evaluate destinations differently from short-term tourists. They think about convenience, daily life, transportation, healthcare, housing, and overall comfort. In those discussions, Kuala Lumpur and Penang appear with increasing frequency. Neither city offers exactly the same experience as Bangkok. That is precisely the point. Travelers are not necessarily looking for another Bangkok. Many are looking for something different. A city that feels modern without feeling overwhelming. A destination that remains vibrant without demanding constant energy. A place where daily life feels easier while still offering culture, food, and exploration. Kuala Lumpur and Penang increasingly satisfy those expectations. What makes this trend particularly interesting is that it reflects a broader change happening across Southeast Asia. Travelers today have more information than ever before. Social media, travel communities, and online recommendations expose people to destinations that previously received little international attention. As a result, fewer travelers automatically follow the same routes that earlier generations followed. Instead, they compare options more carefully. They seek destinations that align with their own priorities rather than simply choosing the most famous name. Bangkok remains one of Asia's great cities. Nothing about this shift changes that reality. The city continues to attract millions of visitors and will likely remain a major tourism hub for years to come. But dominance is not the same as exclusivity. For decades, Bangkok occupied a position that few cities in the region could challenge. Today, travelers have more choices and more awareness of those choices than ever before. That growing awareness is benefiting Kuala Lumpur. It is benefiting Penang. And it may be reshaping how travelers think about Southeast Asia altogether. Because the biggest change is not happening in Bangkok, Kuala Lumpur, or Penang. The biggest change is happening in the minds of travelers themselves. And as those priorities continue to evolve, the destinations gaining attention may not always be the ones people expect.